When the sun is out and the weather is fair, there are few things better than a road trip. And when there are tons of interesting things to see and experience, that can only mean memories. Today we'll be exploring West Central Indiana. Imagine a line below West Lafayette that goes down to Greene County with an eastern limit of Lebanon. There are waterfalls, caves, a rare Indiana arch, ruins, unique museums, covered bridges, grist mills, pioneer villages, Native American culture, ancient relics, some unusual landmarks, and even tombs of ancient people that go back 1,500 years ago. Come along for an adventure as we explore West Central Indiana. While much of central Indiana is on the flat side, this rule does not apply to the western portion, and especially not the Black Rock Nature Preserve, located at Otterbein, is a high-up rocky place with caves. While not terribly difficult to navigate, it's not a cakewalk. It can be slippery and dangerous. It's got a wicked drop that you need to watch out for. Always thinking like a parent, I'd say it's not great for small children. That ledge is unforgiving, 100 feet to the bottom. You'll see caves above the Wabash River. And in 1838, it's where the Potawatomi Indians camped along the Trail of Death. Before that, in 1811, it's where Tecumseh's warriors kept a lookout for William Henry Harrison's soldiers. Spoiler alert, Harrison knew they were there and simply traveled inland to avoid being seen. The town of Williamsport has the tallest publicly accessible waterfall in Indiana, a staggering 90 feet tall. You could easily pitch a softball underhand and hit the observation area. It's a very short walk from the parking area. A little further down the path is another observation deck. And if you're feeling really adventurous, you can hike down to the falls. But getting back up is all on you. I never said it was easy. But the last time I went to Williamsport, I went in search of a mystery, researching ruins left behind in the woods from over 100 years ago. In 1884, a Civil War soldier discovered a spring near the town of Kramer. He drank the mineral-rich water and found that his rheumatism magically got better with the more that he drank. By 1890, a grand hotel was built. It was called Mudlavia and attracted rich visitors from all over the world, eager to reap its magical health benefits. You could drink mineral spring water. You could bathe in it. You could even get a mud bath if you wanted. Just like health trends today, some things never change. People want to feel their best. But the place also had a very sinister and creepy past. Frequented by gangsters, several bodies were found in the wells. Many said that the place was not only haunted, but cursed, allegedly proven by a series of tragic events. In 1920, a mysterious fire burned the Grand Hotel Mudlavia down to the ground. Other things were later built on the site, but they all came to a fiery end. In 1960, the Pleasant Valley Lodge retirement home was built on the site. Just 8 years later, it also burned down. In 1971, a restaurant and hotel were built on the ruins. It was named the Mudlavia Lodge. But just 3 years later, it too burned to the ground. All that remains are ruins in the woods. I started off at the Williamsport, Washington Township Library to see what I could dig up. Based on a tip from my cousin Jim, I found a remarkable model of the Hotel Mudlavia. It really was a grand place, fit for the famous and infamous wealthy people. It was a pretty ritzy joint. I'm not sure they'd let a guy like me in. But even more valuable to me were the maps, giving me clues to where the ruins were. So armed with my GPS, I headed out into the country in search of these allegedly cursed and haunted ruins. Well, who wouldn't, right? Parking along the road, I look for signs of civilization. For a fact, I found some very clear no trespassing signs. Some kind of storage space along the road. A federal-style structure in the ravine, covered with spring foliage. Better yet, all kinds of poison ivy. And here I was again, wearing knee-high shorts and ankle socks. There was what looked like a house with a brick-paved sidewalk. I didn't see any no trespassing signs, so naturally, I went in. Ask not what you can do for your tetanus shot, but what your tetanus shot can do for you. Remnants of a fireplace, but otherwise pretty much gone. Around the area, I found large storage tanks. The water is still bottled and sold under a variety of brand names. It was once owned by the Cameron Springs Company out of Indianapolis. It was then sold to the Perrier Group of America under a massive $10.5 million deal. I don't know if the place is haunted or cursed, but the Hotel Mudlavia sure is an interesting piece of forgotten Indiana history. Heading southwest to Covington, we arrive at the Portland Arch Nature Reserve, and as the name would imply, one of Indiana's rare natural arches. This is not a cakewalk hike. It's a bit of a climb to the ridge, then down a deep ravine. And more importantly, you gotta climb back up to go home. Once at the bottom, it's a pretty easy walk. And here's the main attraction, a big piece of rock with a hole in the center, and you can walk through it. It's not exactly Stargate, but I like it. If you're taller than 5'8", you might have to stoop down to walk through. As far as nature is concerned, it's a pretty cool stop, not to mention some excellent cardio. Next stop is southeast to Crawfordsville, in a unique piece of Indiana history, the Rotary Jail Museum. Built in 1882 as the Montgomery County Jail and Sheriff's Residence, it's a beautiful example of late 19th century architecture on the outside. But inside it has a very unusual jail. Inside is a rotating circle, and inmate cells are each a pie shape. They are only accessible one at a time when the circle is rotated. The thought was that this design made it super secure. Only one inmate can get out at a time. In practicality, it was a really bad idea if the place caught on fire, or if the rotating mechanism simply failed. Everyone would be trapped. In one case, the rotating mechanism locked up, and an inmate that had died in their cell had to remain there several days. It's the only one in Indiana, with only 2 others in the entire United States, one in Iowa and one in Missouri. These are a real rarity. And yes, it's allegedly haunted. Also in Crawfordsville is the General Lew Wallace Study and Museum, or as I knew it several decades ago, the Ben-Hur Museum, for reasons we will get to in a moment. While not a household name today, Lew Wallace was a rock star of his time, a real Renaissance man with many cool interests. He was an attorney, prosecutor, Indiana state senator, and general during the Civil War. He became governor of the New Mexico Territory, during which Billy the Kid asked for clemency. Lew Wallace then became the U.S. Minister to the Ottoman Empire. A statue of him is also at the United States Capitol. All impressive indeed, but his real mark on the world was writing, his most popular book, Ben-Hur. Massively popular, it became the best-selling American novel of the 19th century, making him very wealthy. Ben-Hur was later made into a Hollywood movie starring Charlton Heston. You start at the visitor center. Inside there's a film about Lew Wallace. You can also see movie props from the Ben-Hur movie. But the study in the garden is the main attraction, and it really is something to see. Completed in 1898, he described it as a pleasure house for my soul. Without a doubt, it is the quintessential man cave, or as the kids like to say, a great place to vibe. On the building are characters from the books he wrote. There are windows to the basement where you can see a carriage. But there are none others at the study. Built like a vault, it's a quiet place to write and reflect. Inside is a desk for writing, surrounded by tons of books. Paintings. While many of the paintings were either purchased or given to him, he also did some painting by himself. Sculptures, and all the things that brought him comfort. Looking up, you'll see a majestic skylight that fills the room with the sun's rays. Across from his desk and library, he built a fireplace and comfortable space to read. Stained glass let light in, but prying eyes out. Above the mantel are his swords, pistols. Nearby is a chest of items used for making violins. He made them for fun and gave them away as gifts. And then there are the creature comforts, such as a bathroom, because why come out here, get in that creative frame of mind, and then have to leave when nature calls your name? A spiral staircase goes down to the basement to store all the special things he'd collected in his lifetime of travels and adventures. Over 100 years later, virtually unknown to those outside of town, the pleasure house still stands. One man's dream of peace, and a quiet place to hear his own thoughts. A true time capsule of the past. I want one just like it. Traveling southwest will take you to the Pine Hills Nature Preserve, as well as Shades and Turkey Run State Parks. These have some of the most beautiful rocky ravines in the state, like something out of Lord of the Rings. But they are not casual road trip stops. In fact, you could easily spend 2 days taking it all in. We'll come back to that later. Over the last several years, I've received numerous requests to cover the ruins of Jungle Park, located at Bloomingdale. Whenever I hear the word ruins, it can mean one of two things: a place to get arrested, or a place where you'll need a tetanus shot. Let's find out which one it is. Built in 1926, Jungle Park was a half-mile racetrack where future Indy 500 champions pay their dues. To be absolutely clear, it was a sketchy and dangerous track with many injuries. You had to learn control and discipline in the curves of a short track. Even from the main road, you can see the back of the bleachers. It was here that race fans risked their own lives from all kinds of flying debris, including an occasional wheel from a race car. There's a tempting gate leading down to the ruins. And there it is, the private property, no trespassing sign. Can you count how many no trespassing signs are in this picture? The correct answer is 6. And yet, there's probably someone out there saying, maybe the owners didn't really mean it. Why didn't you go past the fence? Road trips can give you many experiences that you didn't expect, such as over 100 ATVs doing a country drive together. In this ancient-looking round barn, northwest of Dana, Indiana. My first impression, it looks like something out of Norse mythology. The Hazelwood Round Barn was built in 1916. It's 60 feet in diameter, 60 feet tall, and has 60 windows, making the stats super easy to remember. And here's a fun fact. The Cypress siding was shipped all the way from New Orleans, over 800 miles away. They don't make these anymore, a true rarity when you find one. This next stop is very meaningful to me, but will take some explaining for younger people. Let me put it in perspective. Think about your favorite internet personality. One whom tells stories that grab you, move you, and make you think. Even though you've never met, you feel like you actually know them. In the right situation, you might even be friends. This is how Americans felt about Ernie Pal, that was born in Dana, Indiana in 1900. He wrote touching stories about real people that left home to fight for their country. Many never saw home again. The museum has 2 parts. First, the place he was born. And beside it, a military museum. Both are time capsules of a different time. Back in 1996, I came here with my mother. It was a little red box on the map, a point of interest. It reminded her of growing up in rural Indiana along Hunters Creek. So many items brought back memories of the 1940s. Just like her family's place, it was nothing fancy, a place to sit, a place to sleep, a place to eat and socialize. And a place to make meals. If you wanted water, you had to pump it up from the well with a crank. Clean clothes required a lot of manual labor, scrubbing against a washboard and hands in the water. There was no electricity. Cooking was done with a cast iron stove, using wood or coal for fuel. My mom told the young lady in her 20s that to iron clothes required getting irons hot on the stove and quickly moving them across the fabric. If you stopped for even a moment, you'd burn a hole through the fabric. People did have phones, but they weren't private. They were a shared line, and neighbors or the operator could listen if they wanted entertainment. To get service, you had to turn the crank. I once told Mom, I wish I could have been a pioneer, born in the 1800s. To that she said, living at Hunters Creek, I was a pioneer. I'll take my washing machine, stove, refrigerator, and indoor plumbing over pioneer stuff any day of the week. The second part of the museum tells the story of Ernie Pal's coverage of the war in the Pacific. It starts with a somber remembrance. Less than 5 months before the war ended in the Pacific, Ernie was killed by a Japanese sniper, April 18th of 1945. The museum opens to a short film about his life.
Ernie Pal was the most beloved and renowned war correspondent this nation has ever known.
And continues with dioramas that tell the story. It feels like it could have been yesterday, a moment frozen in time. My mother teared up, and I asked her what was wrong. She said it reminded her of how her dad was drafted and sent to Okinawa. He was gone several years, and every letter he sent home could be the last. Her mother would read the letters to the kids and cry. When he finally got home, the youngest was scared of him. He didn't even know his own dad. Grandpa received a Bronze Star for bravery, but never talked about the war. It was just too terrible. Friends were lost on the battlefield, and that included Ernie Pal. Soldiers made a temporary marker where he was killed, saying, "The 77th Infantry Division lost a buddy, Ernie Pal." The museum has a section honoring the many veterans of the county, including a rotating display of division patches. This one, my dad's 11th Airborne Division. He died when I was 11, and I looked at that patch so many times. On this earth, not everyone gets a long life, but for those of us that remain, we get a lifetime to remember. Heading south to Rockville is Billy Creek Village. I found this place with my mother nearly 30 years ago. It really is a time capsule of pioneer-era buildings. It has a general store, an old schoolhouse, cabin, house, as well as 2 churches. Not to mention 3 covered bridges that surround the property. Park County is considered the covered bridge capital of the world, with 31 covered bridges, more than any place on earth. And speaking of covered bridges, you could start looking for them early in the morning and barely be done by dark. I should know, I did it one year. The Park County Covered Bridge Festival is held each October, attracting thousands of people in bumper-to-bumper traffic. But if you're not into crowds, outside of October, you'll find the small towns very quiet. Such as here at Bridgeton, a short drive southeast. Here you'll see an old grist mill, built in 1870. And the famous Bridgeton Covered Bridge, built in 1868. In 2005, it was destroyed by arson. Many times, that's the end of the story, as these old wooden bridges are incredibly expensive to build. However, it was rebuilt in 2006. Simply a beautiful place for pictures and peace. Heading slightly northeast, we find the Mansfield Mill. Completed in 1821, it was rebuilt in 1880 and updated in 1886. Terre Haute to the southwest has numerous surprises, such as the Kenneth E. Smith Memorial Park Labyrinth. Some people consider them a novelty of the past. Others think they have spiritual energy. while yet others think they're a peaceful place in the park. There's also the Native American Museum at Dobbs Memorial Park. Not mentioned in Indiana tour guides, it has some very nice displays. Next stop is the Vigo County Museum, especially good when the weather is hot and you don't want to be. Great air conditioning inside. 2 floors of exhibits, one for meetings and research, and all are handicap accessible. You'll notice a large Coke bottle out front. The reason? Terre Haute is where the iconic Coke bottle was invented in 1915. Yikes, creepy clown at the entrance. To your left is a classic Coke diner. I would absolutely love to do this with my basement. You can also see a Coke assembly line. The first floor opens up to a variety of exhibits. I love the storefronts. They have vintage cars, and even an airplane if you want to sit in the pilot seat. Taking the elevator up, we arrive at various exhibit halls. Historic Hodians, famous people that lived at Terre Haute. One of the most famous, composer Paul Dresser, that wrote On the Banks of the Wabash Far Away. It became the official song of Indiana in 1913. And then there's the Arts and Entertainment Gallery. Local schools and sports. Even an Olympic bobsled. They have a fun special exhibit gallery. It was featuring things from the 1980s. Admit it, if you were alive in the 1980s, you either wore something like this or knew someone who did. Look at this tech. Lots of memories here. Dad had one of those TVs and we took it on road trips. Someone you know had this couch, I guarantee it. If you have the time, there's quite a bit to absorb. The Tours of Duty Gallery honors Terre Haute veterans. there's a county history section and origins that talks about early immigrants to Terre Haute. But arguably the most popular is the Haunted Legends Gallery. It features not only a fireplace from an allegedly haunted mansion, but a recreated mausoleum and the story of Stiffy Green. As the story goes, a man by the name of John Heinel had a loyal bulldog. It's said that the dog was so loyal that when John died, the dog couldn't get over it. In fact, he went to his master's grave every day until he too died. The family then stuffed the dog and put him inside the mausoleum, because why wouldn't they? And after that, people swore they saw a ghostly figure in the cemetery, walking a bulldog. People would go to the mausoleum at night to look inside and try to see the stuffed dog, affectionately called Stiffy Green. Called thus because of being stuffed and having glowing green eyes. It's unclear if it was just because of the artificial eyes, or if it was a supernatural thing. Nevertheless, it caused problems at the cemetery, and Stiffy was relocated to the museum. You can take a flashlight and look inside for Stiffy Green. The third floor has a lecture hall, meeting space, as well as a research archive. I was looking at the old pharmacy cabinets and noticed cod liver oil. What's new was once old. People are now using it for all kinds of ailments. Without a doubt, history is a cycle, and we can all learn from it. But I would be amiss without mentioning the St. Mary's of the Woods campus with its many historic structures, including a labyrinth, the historic grotto of Our Lady of Lourdes. It's a few steps down there. In case you were wondering, I counted 22 steps. With some of them having landings, it wasn't too bad. What fascinated me the most was this place, St. Anne's Shell Chapel. I'd heard about this a long time ago, but this was the first time I'd seen it. Inside is completely covered with beautiful seashells. For all I know, they could be freshwater shells. Hey, I'm a YouTuber, not a conchologist. And yes, that is a word. I Googled it. On the way out, I stopped at the graveyard, mesmerized by the hundreds of nuns that gave their lives to service. I'm not Catholic, but can appreciate devoting your life to something you believe in, something bigger than yourself that helps other people. We all need a sense of purpose. Another pleasant surprise was the Fowler Park Pioneer Village on the far southern edge of Terre Haute. It's a really nice walk through the 1800s that isn't well known outside of town. Here you'll find a grist mill and many cabins. I'm not completely sure, but I think there's more cabins here than at Spring Mill in Mitchell, Indiana. Out on the frontier, traveling salesmen would try to sell potions, promising to fix all your ailments. Looking on the internet, not much has changed. There's also a covered bridge at the lake. Looking for a little peace? Maybe you can find it here. But for the truly exotic, we continue southwest to Fairbanks, Indiana. At Offi Sippoi, we find an ancient burial ground. Out in the country by itself, it makes for a quiet, serene place. It definitely has a sense of presence. The burial mounds were built over 1,500 years ago. The artifacts analyzed did not resemble those of later Native American tribes, making it a mystery of whom these people were. On the grounds are many Native American displays. Some researchers in the past suggested a link to Latin America based upon similar looking artifacts, which is a lead-in to the next unusual destination. Just 18 minutes southwest is the town of Marram, Indiana, situated along the Wabash River. This is a place that has much more than meets the eye. Founded in 1817, Marram, Indiana was once home to Union Christian College from 1859 to 1924. Also home to the annual Marram Chautauqua Festival. You'll find remnants of a much older town, such as a post office in the old State Bank building and a Carnegie Library. But my interest? An ancient city with stone walls, earthworks, and burial mounds, once inhabited on a bluff around 1,500 years ago. Documented by Professor John Collette in 1871, he believed that the artifacts found here were closely related to the Aztecs, especially the patterns on pottery. The archaeological site was called Fort Azatlan, based on John Collette's belief that the artifacts were of Aztec design. In addition to a prehistoric wall were stone box graves, usually found in much older burial sites. Today, almost nothing remains of the site, but when in Rome, there seemed to be a path, so I forged ahead. But the foliage was so thick that it was clear I wouldn't see anything, and I didn't bring a machete. This is definitely on my list for late fall, when much more can be seen. But what you can see is a wonderful overlook of the Wabash River at Marram Bluff Park. Here's a path down. But I would not recommend. Very sketchy looking. I thought the masonry with stones was interesting, as well as the cannon and cannonballs overlooking the valley, like Chattanooga's Point Park. There is a better path down, but a guy returning from the bottom said, unquote, "It was killer." Such a wonderful, unexpected destination, a place I'd never seen before, but hope to see again. If the prospect of destroying your car's suspension is not a concern, a drive to Sullivan, Indiana will provide one of the most unusual gravestones in Indiana. There are no houses out here, and there's an unreal peace about the place. It's dead quiet, to insert a little cemetery humor. This is the gravestone of Kerry Shane Shekels. He died in 2005 at 31 years old. He was an avid player of Monopoly, so his family devised this incredible memorial. Each one of the spaces is an event in his lifetime. From schools he attended, his first car, and even places he liked to eat. I may never have known Kerry, but I know he was loved. West Central Indiana has plenty of unusual things to see, such as this sycamore tree at Worthington. Over 500 years old in 1915, the tree was originally 150 feet tall and over 45 feet in circumference. It was a monster. When its life ended in 1925, a tree branch section was cut and brought to Worthington Park. You heard right. This isn't a massive tree trunk. This is a giant tree branch, worthy of a selfie for posterity. Traveling southeast, you'll find the absolutely massive Tulip Viaduct at Bloomfield. It's a bridge for trains, 2,295 feet long and 157 feet tall. When completed in 1906, it was the longest train trestle in America and the third largest on the planet. There's a nice observation deck and free parking. Well over a century old and still used today, it was absolutely built to last. As you make your way further east, you'll pass the iconic Yoho General Store. Not many of these are around anymore. They're always a great stop. At Bloomington was a place I'd wanted to visit for many years. Originally called the Glenn Black Lab, it's been renamed the IU Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. Professor Black is one of my heroes. He famously excavated over 2.5 million artifacts from the ancient Angel Mound site at Evansville and the older Edina sites near Lawrenceburg, Indiana. I wanted to come here and see what was on display. It's been closed for several years, and I was worried that much of this massive collection would be off limits. But I was pleasantly surprised by what was at Bloomington. It's very colorful and modern, not your old-fashioned archaeology museum in the least. It has an immersive film on a concave screen, telling the story of ancient people. But the artifacts were the true star. they don't look like anything produced by later tribes, and more closely resemble those from Latin America. The artwork is very telling, revealing a complexity and intelligence. Large points were developed for very large game, such as a woolly mammoth. And as smaller game was plentiful, they adapted to making smaller points. They were very skilled at tool making. Not millions of artifacts, but I was not disappointed. The other half of the museum is dedicated to world cultures. Though not a huge museum, it's completely free, including free parking in front of the building. Going northwest from Bloomington is McCormick's Creek State Park at Spencer. There is some epic hiking for those that want to work out, even Wolf Cave if you feel like exploring. But if you just want a beautiful view without the hike, they've got you. The waterfall observation deck is a fairly short walk from the road. If your legs will let you, there's stairs that go down for a closer view. Heading further northwest, we arrive at our final destination, Cataract Falls in Owen County. This glorious place consists of an upper and lower waterfall. The upper fall is 45 feet tall and is one of the most photographed in Indiana. Further down the road, you'll arrive at the lower waterfall. This one is around 30 feet tall. Simply a great place to end a journey, catch your breath, and gather a little peace. There's so much to see and so much to experience in West Central Indiana. This was just a sampler with many amazing things waiting for exploration. Maybe it's time for a road trip.